Welcome to the Knock Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of TNT Totally Not True with Rabbi Stuart Federow from the Big H, Houston, Texas. Welcome back.
And it's always good to be back.
In arms, Rabbi Stuart Federow. How are you?
Always good to be back.
Oh, let me unmute you. There you go.
Be back.
All right, good to have you back for sure. All right. Well, our the Skype window is freezing every once in a while, but it won't interfere with the show, I don't think, unless it provides a little bit of a distraction, but it's nothing bad. And let me pull up my live streaming, make sure we're good there. All looks good. We are live and on the air. Stuart Federow, Michaelson, welcome. Very good. I guess I should say hi too. Okay, there we go.
Hi, Raymond. Hi, Michael.
Raymond, welcome, guys. Very nice. All right, so how's the sound out there in YouTube land? It's really weird. On my meter, it looks like it's really, really, really low. But my sound,
well, it's just not. It's not a strong sound. It's like you're in a tunnel, sort of.
Oh! You mean to you? Hold on.
To me.
Okay, 1 second. I plugged in a different what you call it, webcam.
Hi, Wally.
Give me 1 second. Let me get
to Michael agrees. He says it's a little low.
Audio, microphone, USB audio codec. There we go. That should be better for you. Hear me louder now, Rabbi?
Yes, much better.
Okay, good. Now I'm hoping it'll show up that way.
Well, it was much better.
It was, or it is still?
It was, and then all of a sudden it sounds like you're half power.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, I've got the settings the way they should.
Hi, Katie. Hi, Devin.
Okay, so I'm going to turn my mic up now. That'll give you...
There we go. Whatever you did, don't change it.
Okay, very good. This thing has an attitude problem. It goes
Yay.
to changes. Every show I have to do something different.
It's a miracle I can hear you.
I'm a miracle worker. Hey, Katie, how are you? Mama Bear? Good, better. Shalom, Yasmin.
Yeah.
Okay, good deal. So it sounds so loud to me. Are you sure the sound's okay in YouTube land? Because it sounds like I'm really, really like hot inside here. I may have to go with a different type of soundboard. I've been using the same soundboard mixers for 8 years now, and I'm not sure if that's what's giving me false readings or not.
Cool?
Janice, welcome. Hey, Andrea. Andrea is usually my really, really sharp ears out there, so I'll have to look to Andrea for the sound quality for tonight. She's usually pretty spot on her descriptions there. Perfect? Good. Okay. Awesome. All right. Very, very good. All right. Well, very good. So there's our title right there. The New Testament says the sins must be atoned for with blood. This is coming from Leviticus 17:11.
Blood. I want to blood. I want your blood.
I want to suck your blood.
I want to bite your neck.
So that's kind of where we're at right now, and that's where we're going to take it. So what I want to discuss throughout the night, of course, is going to be what that context of Leviticus 17 actually is.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. That's the thing, William. Even before we take a look at the text, okay, we have to talk about some things, I think, my opinion.
Well, I didn't say the text, I said the context.
No, I know that. But before we look at the context of 17:11,
okay, good.
Okay, there's something we have to talk about first.
Perfect. That's why you have been hired for the job.
Here's my analogy, which is not really a good analogy, but I'll use it anyway. Does William Hall get the name William Hall and then get the name Bill? Or does William Hall get the name Bill or Billy first and then get the name William?
Right. I see where you're headed with this. It's obviously William is the first.
It's got to come first.
Right. It has to be in
other words, I don't think, like people will say like 17:11, I'm sorry, like Isaiah 7:14. They'll say, oh, they mistranslated it as virgin, therefore they think the Messiah has to be born of a virgin. No, it's the opposite. First they think the Messiah has to be born of a virgin, and then they go look for a verse to validate that belief.
So they're painting the bullseye.
It's
around the
reversing
arrow.
it.
Yeah, reversing.
So
it.
what? And my point is that what happens here is that what is the need to believe in a Jesus? Okay, what is the need? Why is it a necessity to believe in Jesus? Why do I have to believe in Jesus, that he died for my sin?
The need was created.
The need is created first,
right.
Then they go look through the Bible to find verses that support their already existing belief.
Yes, very good.
And that has to be understood first. Okay,
yep.
Why would anybody in their right mind, well, that's not fair. Why would anybody believe that the only way God will forgive, can forgive, will forgive, might forgive is if there's blood shed?
Right.
Why would that even become, why would somebody even think that? If the Bible precedes
yep.
Christianity, which obviously it does, okay, if the Bible precedes Christianity, why would Christianity have this idea as so much a part of it that you got to have a blood sacrifice in order for God to be able to forgive you? You know, if God is from the outset understood as what's the word? You know, omnipotent, okay, omnipotent, vastly powerful.
Right.
L'chaim.
Thank you.
Okay. If God is omnipotent, why would God need anything in order to be able to forgive somebody?
Yep.
Okay. What happens is that the belief comes first, and then they look through the Bible to validate that already existing belief. They come up with the idea, you have to believe in Jesus. Why do you have to believe in Jesus? Well, you have to believe in Jesus because believing in Jesus saves you from sin. Why does believing in Jesus save you from sin? Because he died for your sin. Well, plenty of people die all the time. Well, then they take it back a step and say something had to die and have shed blood for you to be forgiven. It's not that they read through the Hebrew Scriptures, the Bible,
right,
and see Leviticus 17:11. Okay, it's that they create the need first, and then start looking through the Bible to find something to validate that belief. They got to create a need for Jesus.
Right, absolutely.
Okay. How many times did people get forgiven for something without any blood being shed? You've got Leviticus 5. If a person is too poor to be able to afford the cheapest, they cannot even afford the cheapest blood sacrifice, how do they get forgiven? Is forgiveness only for the wealthy, the ones who can afford an animal sacrifice?
Yeah, great.
No, because Leviticus 5 says if you can't afford one, then you can use wheat,
yep,
flour. Okay. Jonah.
No sacrifice.
Jonah says 5 words prophesying to the people of Nineveh. He doesn't even go into the center of the city. He goes one day. It's a 3-day trip from one end to the other. He goes one day in. He's not even in the center. Says 5 words, and immediately they repent, and they are forgiven.
Yep. No
okay.
Sacrifice.
Pray, fast, confess. That's part of the prayer. Stop doing the bad. Start doing the good. Stop doing the bad, and God forgives you. So they have example after example after example after example of people being forgiven without a blood sacrifice. So they got to come up with it. Once they create the need for Jesus, he died for your sin. Now they have to come up with a proof that you have to have a blood sacrifice, and this is what they stumble upon. By ripping it out of its context, by mistranslating, by misrepresenting, they come up with all of their theology for every little thing. It is the difference between exegesis and eisegesis.
Explain those terms.
All right. Exegesis means to pull out of the text. Okay. Eisegesis means to inject into the text. So, the biblical text reads, "You shall be holy, for I, the eternal, your God, am holy." So it's teaching us to imitate God. If we understand God to be forgiving and compassionate, then we are supposed to be forgiving and compassionate. Okay?
Right.
It's not that hard to come up with that from those verses. Eisegesis is putting into the text something you already believe, something that's already in your head and in your heart. Injecting it into the text instead of pulling it out of the text. Much of Christianity is eisegesis, not exegesis.
Right.
That's why everything that they say Jesus will do for you is based on faith. Okay? Everything they say Jesus fulfilled is based on faith. The Messiah is to be born in Bethlehem. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Really? Show me the birth certificate.
Right.
Well, it says so in the New Testament. I have faith in the New Testament. Okay.
That's another thing that's a big, I think, disagreement for me with the New Testament concept of faith, because faith and faithfulness are obviously two different things. But Jesus didn't teach faith, but the New Testament did, meaning that whenever he gave credit to, was it the centurion or whoever it was, I can't remember now, but it was a guy who needed to be healed, or needed his son healed, and he said, "Go and I'll send my servant." And he goes, "No," he goes, "I understand how authority works. All you got to do is say the word and he'll be healed." And Jesus' response to him was, or to the people, says, "Blessed is this man, his faith is greater than anything I've ever seen." And it was all based on understanding, not about not knowing and not proving, but about complete comprehension. So Jesus himself knows his idea of faith and Christianity's idea of faith are two totally different things. They think it's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, whatever the case may be, but that's not what it is at all, And so,
no. Hello?
I'm here.
Oh, your mic is okay.
Yeah. If I have to clear my throat or something, I'll try to spare you.
No, right. To me, it sounded like you're switched off. Okay. All right. So my point is, you have to understand from the beginning that any single verse can be interpreted any way anybody wants to. Anybody can come along and interpret any verse they want any way they want. And anybody else can come along and say, "Well, I disagree." The problem is when you get faced with a verse whose simple, obvious, no spin understanding contradicts the interpretation from any of the other verses. And that's what we have here. So go to Leviticus 17 and pull up 11.
Yep.
And here you're going to see they ignore context, they ignore all sorts of different things to come up with this idea based on this one verse.
Okay. Give me a second.
And by the way, can anybody base any one idea, any one theological statement on only a single verse?
Right.
Doesn't it need some form of corroboration somewhere else in the Bible to make sure that your interpretation is correct?
Okay, 11's coming up on screen in about 10 seconds for you. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls.
Right, but see, here's the thing about that. Everybody, listen to the way you just read it. Okay? For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and have given it to you on the altar to make an atonement for your soul. In the way we read it, we're accenting to make an atonement for your souls. I have given it to you to make atonement for your souls is how it sounds like it reads. Because when we read it, our voice, for some reason, everybody's voice seems to drop with the upon the altar part. And I've given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls.
Right.
To make
That's the part that stands out to me now more than ever is because it says upon the altar is
exactly
very, very important.
That's the point.
Yes.
And that is actually the point of the whole paragraph.
Very nice.
Okay? For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it's the blood that makes an atonement for the soul when it goes on the altar. See, that's the thing about this. It's like people, when they read this, they read it in a way that doesn't make clear the meaning of the verse in and of itself. If you ignore verse 10, ignore verse 12, and just quote, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I've given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls, the whole altar bit falls to nothing.
Right.
But if you just take the verse again, ignoring verse 10, ignoring verse 12, and read it, for the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I've given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. For it's the blood that makes an atonement for your soul. You can't get away from it then. And what's the whole point? Okay, what is the whole point of this paragraph? The whole point of this paragraph is don't eat blood. How many times in the text, I wrote down a few, how many times in the text does it say that you don't drink blood, you don't consume blood?
Right.
Okay, so let's see. Come on. How about, real quick, if you want to take a look at it, Leviticus 3:17. Okay, and this is leading up to 17. Okay, this is the greater, larger context than just the one verse to the whole chapter. This is the context of the whole chapter. So go take a look at 3:17. Okay, Leviticus chapter 3, verse 17. It shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings that you eat neither fat nor blood. Okay? Take a look at 7:26.
Okay. Okay. Moreover, you shall eat no manner of blood, whether it be of fowl or beast or in any of your dwellings.
Right. Okay. Again and again and again and again, it's going to say, don't consume blood.
27 is just as good. Whosoever shall...
7:26, 7:27.
Yep. Even that soul shall be cut off from his people.
Right. If you eat blood, you get cut off.
And isn't it funny? I find it so...
now, you can also boldface or whatever you could just call outline, whatever, 26.
Yeah. So ironically, it's so weird how now in not just the Catholic Church, but everywhere where they have the sacraments, where they have the little bread for the body and the little grape juice representing his blood. Why would you suggest doing something that is it would cause somebody to be cut off from their people? That's really ironic. So.
And yet they'll say, oh, Christianity doesn't, the New Testament doesn't disagree in any way, shape, or form with the Hebrew Scriptures. The Old and New Testament agree with each other. How often do we hear that in our conversations with Christians? Amazes me.
Yep.
Okay, so what do we say? 3:17, 7:26, and 27. Okay, the context in which is found. By the way, you can also go to 17, 12, and 13. 14, okay. all of which is talking about don't drink the blood, don't drink the blood. The point of the paragraph is, if you're going to do a sacrifice, the blood goes on the altar, actually on the sides of the altar. If you read the whole, if you read the whole section on how to do a sacrifice.
And if is the key word. That's what you said. If you're going to do a sacrifice.
If you're going to do a sacrifice, the blood doesn't go in your mouth; it goes on the sides of the altar. That's all it's saying.
Okay, now let's jump in real fast and do a quick gear shift. What types of sins did a blood sacrifice actually atone for?
Okay, we can do that now, okay. And that's the unintentional, accidental sin.
Right, exactly. So
okay, what does that mean? If I first degree premeditated cold-blooded murder, all I have to do is give up a cow and God forgives me? Does that even make sense?
Even as simple as if you just lie. If you plan on lying and you follow through with the lie, that's
if you do it on purpose, no blood sacrifice can help you.
It's completely ignorant sin is really the context of blood sacrifices.
And if you take a look at Leviticus, beginning with chapter 4, I think over and over and over and over and over and over and over, it says, if this person sins unwittingly or unknowingly, if the king sins unknowingly, if the people sin unknowingly, and it goes through different people, different individuals, different groups, but it always says unknowingly, unwittingly, by accident, then blood sacrifice.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But because we really didn't do it yet, go to Leviticus 17:10.
Okay.
Just so people will see it on the screen. I think that's necessary.
Okay. Okay, here we go. All right. Whatsoever man there be of the house of Israel, or of strangers that sojourn among you, that eateth any manner of blood, I will even set my face against that soul that eateth blood, and I will cut him off from among his people.
For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls, for it's the blood that makes an atonement for the soul. Therefore, I said to the children of Israel, no soul of you shall eat blood. The verse before and the verse after speak out against eating, consuming blood.
So the whole point is to prevent people from eating it.
If you're going to do a blood sacrifice, the blood goes on the altar, not in your mouth.
Right. In fact, it
that's
goes
the whole point of this.
Somewhere else it says the same thing. It goes either on the altar or it must be poured out on the ground.
Right.
Yep. So,
and by the way, if you take a look, it's I always think it's funny, but there are Christian writers and speakers and whatever who will say, when we point out that there was no blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin, or you didn't have to have a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin, they'll say, oh, but they put it on the altar, so the blood mixed with the animal sacrifice. Well, stop and think about what you're saying. Okay, how did they do a sacrifice? What exactly went into the sacrifice?
Right.
The wood goes on the altar, then the meat of the animal goes on the wood, and then you burn the wood, which burns the meat, the flesh.
Okay.
But if you put the blood on top of the altar, you're dousing the flames. How can you have a fire if you're dousing it, if you're pouring the blood all over the top?
Right.
And if you read the text of Leviticus, when it describes how a person does a sacrifice, it goes, the blood is on the side, and if there's any blood at all on top, it's sprinkled.
Right. Hey, okay, so Rabbi, sit tight for 1 second.
Go ahead.
Just watch the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Watch YouTube. I'm gonna put something up on your. I'm gonna cover you up with something here. Tell me when you see it.
What is this?
You'll see here in a second. There you
go. Yeah.
It's ironic. It sounds funny, but it's so true. It's exactly
It
this
is
whole thing.
true.
It's a setup for failure scenario.
Yes. Knock, knock. Who's there? It's Jesus. Let me in. Why? And then it becomes unreadable. I can't see it.
It says why? It says I have to save you from what? From what I'm going to do if you don't let me in. I'm thinking there's so many of these that are so true, but I don't know. It's weird. It's crazy. Okay, so now the value system on sacrifices. Like for example, Rabbi Singer once mentioned that out of all the sacrifices that have anything to do with atonement at all, that blood is like the least powerful.
Right, because blood explicitly is only for unintentional sins, but the other ways of obtaining forgiveness is for any kind of sin.
Right. So.
Okay, so if you do a blood sacrifice, as we just said, and if you want a whole list of verses, I can give them to you, but it says only for unintentional sin.
Right.
You know, if the king does what unwittingly, unknowingly, if the people do it unknowingly, if a priest does it unknowingly, if the Levite does it, it's always unknowingly, unwittingly, by accident. Bish gaga. Okay. But, you know, there are other ways of doing a sacrifice, other forms of sacrifice, and they covered, pardon the pun, a multitude of sin. All right.
Yep.
So it means the blood sacrifice is the weakest form of finding forgiveness because it only works for one kind of sin. So, all right.
Got it. Okay.
Why would Jews be to blame for Christianity? Why would we have the responsibility for Christianity? That's a weird question, but okay.
Strange for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yes.
I'm
So
just trying to figure out. I've got some weird bugs in my sound system, and it's been going on for about 3 months now.
sound okay to me.
Yeah, it's just I'm looking at it. I'm getting false readings, and so I don't know what to adjust.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so what next? Should we open the phone lines?
Do what?
Should we open up the phone lines?
Well, just one more thing to,
Okay.
Where'd it go?
By the way, cheers.
No,
Yeah, Chaim. I decided to only have one glass of wine, so it's a really big one. Cheers.
Yeah. It's like the, have you ever seen these, yeah, like that, like what you've got. Okay.
Goblet.
The doctor said I could only have one cup of wine, so this is my cup. It's like, gigantic.
Yep, that's funny.
Okay. Let's see.
Son of a silver stacker. Hello, welcome. Thank you for the feedback, Miss Katie. Sounds good in Florida. Very good. All right.
Let's see. I just oh, there it is. Kavian Koranism. Are Jews technically to blame for Christianity? Why would Jews be to blame for Christianity? Unless, of course, you're going to blame every individual for anything their group or anybody who's a member of their group comes out with. So, I guess, well, he uses the word Koranism. So does that mean the Quran is to blame for the terrorism that's going on now? Because the people who are doing the terrorism say they believe in the Quran. So, I mean, what's sauce for the goose, buddy, is sauce for the gander. Right. So he's probably the guy that I had to block from my whatever it was.
All right.
Is it idolatry to worship a Jew convicted of blasphemy? Hello? It's idolatry to worship a Jew for anything.
Yeah, for anybody for that matter.
You don't worship a human being. You worship God and only God.
There you go.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
What are you checking out?
Say again?
It says Tanakh Talk. Let me check that out. Let me check that.
Oh, yeah. Andre gave me some information about my sound and yours.
Oh, good.
We're
Okay.
talking together. Like mine wanes whenever you're talking, and then it gets louder when you're done. So there's somehow they're connected somewhere in this channel. Right, I've got to figure out where that's at. So I'm gonna let you I'm gonna let you review some questions real fast. I'm also going to turn on.
Well, they're not questions. They're just people commenting.
Okay.
So,
Well, in that case, I'm going to turn on the phone lines right now. Then. And then you guys can call in with if you got another question or something to add to this. Preferably, if you have more to add to this topic tonight, that would be better. So we can keep the one video completely pertaining strictly to this topic. Would be great.
By the way, there's another element to this idea that you got to have a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin. Okay, and that is what makes that blood. And by that I mean the following. They say that something had to die for us to be forgiven. So you have to ask the question, what precisely did the dying? Now, to my way of thinking, as I'm fond of saying, my God cannot die, sorry about yours. If they think that it was Jesus the God who died, then they're saying that God can die. And they'll say, oh no, it was God, it was Jesus the human, which means that their whole religion is based on human sacrifice, which explicitly God calls an abomination and something he hates.
Right.
So it's not just the question of, do we have to have a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin? You have to ask the question from a Christian perspective, what is it that did the dying that made the blood sacrifice? Able to be sacrificed.
Right.
And the answer is Jesus the human. Well, that means the whole basis of their religion is human sacrifice that God calls an abomination and something he hates.
Right. Yep.
Interesting to me that the Christianity talks about God is love, but God also hates, and there are plenty of examples in the Bible where it says God hates.
All right, Rabbi, we've got a caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name. Where you're calling from.
Hi, my name is Sean. How you doing, Rabbi? How you doing?
Hi, Sean.
Hey, I'm here in the United States, here in Texas, and I had a question for you. I'm your cousin, Muslim cousin from the United States.
Welcome.
And I had a question for you because, as you know, we Muslims, we do halal, and I know you and our Jewish brothers and sisters, they do kashrut.
Yes.
I have a question. I'm really just wanting to know when y'all do the slaughter, right? And you pronounce. I'm not sure what prayer you do. Do you have a specific thing, a prayer that's recited upon the slaughter to do shahut?
Yes. But unfortunately, you're going to ask me what is it that consists of that prayer? And offhand, I can't tell you. I don't remember. Okay, but remember something. And because this becomes a horrible stereotype, not only for Judaism, by the way, but for Islam. I've actually heard it also for Islam. Oh, kosher. That means a rabbi blessed it. A rabbi said a blessing and made it kosher. No. It is not the blessing that makes it kosher. It's how the animal is slaughtered that makes it kosher. How the animal is slaughtered. Well, what animal can be slaughtered, how the animal is slaughtered, how the meat is prepared, and how the meat is served. There are other elements.
It's like the check is not money. The check is a guarantee of money. Just like the prayer is basically putting that certification stamp on it. Yep, I've checked it out. It's exactly
right,
like
exactly. But it's the person who does the slaughtering also has to be a particularly spiritual person, and Judaism and Islam requires a one-on-one confrontation between animal and human. So, but if you're going to ask me what consists of the blessing, I'd have to look it up. I'm not a shochet. I'm not a ritual slaughterer person.
Sean, did that answer your question, brother or cousin?
Well, just as a quick follow-up, for example, like one of the biggest criteria for the Muslim to make it halal is we must pronounce the name of Allah on the sacrifice. But here's my question. So I know there's some prohibition on saying the name of God. You say the name of Hashem,
Sure.
right? You say Hashem.
Sure.
So, but I know that in prayer it's okay to say, obviously,
Right.
all the other names of God. I wonder if that is it the name Hashem, or is it actually the other names that's recited? That's what I really want to know, honestly.
Well, wait a minute. There's first of all, there's more than one name. Second of all, one of those names is considered to be the holiest name of God, and that name we don't pronounce.
Right.
We pronounce instead of, we don't say Hashem, the name. We say Adonai, which is
My Lord, basically.
my master,
Yeah.
my Lord, my master. Lord and lady is like King James English. Right. So we're what would you say? Closer to the pronunciation, but we're still not pronouncing the name.
So the question was, is it the production or the usage of Adonai that makes it kosher, or is it the inspection that actually is what causes it?
What inspection? What do you mean?
Well, for them to certify that they've.
It is a process.
That's what I mean. I mean, so it's
And
the
part of
process,
the-
not the prayer, but it's the process
It's
of
not
actually
prayer,
doing
it's
it.
the process of how the animal is slaughtered, what kind of animal first, how that animal is slaughtered, how the meat is prepared, and how the meat is served.
Okay, so if there's no rabbi there, but somebody, if there is a hechsher that knows what
it's
they're.
not a rabbi. It's a shochet. It's a person who is
Gotcha.
deeply trained and deeply spiritual, who knows all of the.
And they have to approve of the process, and that's what qualifies.
They're doing the process.
Oh, they're actually doing it itself.
Yeah, I'm not talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
You're confusing the word mashgiach.
Okay.
Okay, which is a person who certifies the kashrut of a product or a food or a like a restaurant or manufacturer.
Okay.
And the shochet, who is the one who actually does the slaughtering.
Right.
The shochet who does the slaughtering is the one who has to know how to do it and do it, which incorporates prayers.
Gotcha. Sean, I apologize for walking on your questions, but I thought maybe that might have been in the same line of questioning that you had.
No, that's perfectly. I understand. I just wanted to just get it, just to get a understanding. And by the way, I do. I do quite a bit of research on my Jewish brothers and sisters' religion, because the true way to true understanding between faiths is to learn about each other, and that's how we come to a better understanding. And this is where all the anti-Semitism and xenophobia, all these things go away when you actually try to understand the other our brothers and sisters in humanity. So I just wanted to praise the show. Thank you for doing the show. I love Tanakh Talk. I love Rabbi Tovia Singer. I love the fact that our Jewish brothers and sisters are very staunch monotheists. I love that.
Thank you very much for the call, Sean. So feel free to call in anytime, okay? Thank you, brother. You bet. Bye. Okay, awesome. Cool. I'm glad you talked about that. I didn't know that. I knew that there was a lot involved, and I was familiar with some of it. I didn't know exactly what it entertains. That was pretty cool.
Right. Well, we just talked about how we're not supposed to eat blood. So part 3 is that you have to remove as much blood as you can, and there's a specific process of washing the meat, okay, and salting the meat, washing the meat, salting the meat, a process by which as much of the blood can be removed is removed. And then the 4th element is how the meat is served, which is involved in the separation of milk and meat.
Very good.
Yeah. So let's see.
All right, let's see how this works. Check 1, 2. Okay, good. All right, I just found some settings in my software that might help me offset these microphone volumes, by the way. And I really appreciate y'all's feedback when I'm watching chat. Not for questions, but to make sure that you guys are hearing and seeing things okay. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that insight.
Let's see.
Phone line is open. 855-952-4253 is on your screen. Call in if you want, even if you just want to call and say, hey, that would be fine.
Right. Okay, so a shochet Praise to you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy by giving us the commandments and commands us concerning slaughter. Okay? And if he's doing his own, praise to you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who makes us holy by giving us the commandments and commands us to slaughter. Commands us to slaughter or commands us concerning slaughter. Concerning slaughter is when a shochet is doing it for someone else, and to slaughter is when he is making his own meat. You know. Let's see. Real quick, that's what I could find.
Okay, awesome.
So, let's see. I don't think that's the only one, but that's the one I could find real quick.
Right. Okay, so also, guys, if you have, as the week proceeds, if y'all have topic ideas,
yeah, we'd love to have them.
You can send them in Messenger to me, or to Rabbi in his Messenger, or go to whatjewsbelieve.org. I just merged two things together. Rabbi, what is your direct? It's Rabbi Stuart at Hotmail?
Yes.
Just Rabbi Stuart.
And remember, Stuart is Stuart.
Right.
There's no E, there's no W. It's Stuart, like the Kings of England family name, Stuarts.
Stuart, there we go.
Yeah.
And
Rabbi Stuart at hotmail.com.
I am looking for something. Oh, I just found it. Cool. Let's see if I can do this real fast. Pardon me. Sorry. I'm going to put, just for fun, because you guys haven't seen
Remember
it yet.
the Passover lamb, they needed the blood for the doorposts. So I assume every year after that, the commemoration would be just like any other meat. That would be my guess. I mean, I haven't looked, I said, I'm not a shochet. I don't know.
All right, guys. So just in case you have missed out on it,
yeah,
this will be something of interest
I'll
for
tell
all of you.
Unitarian Christian Outreach. We know that red meat is not that great for you anyway, and there are in fact places in Houston, Texas, to obtain kosher meat, but by and large, 99% of what I eat is really vegetarian. Marcy made a chili, and a lot of times she'll use what's it called? The soy stuff. What's it called?
Oh, Worcestershire. No, what are you talking about?
No, fake meat.
Soy, yeah.
But they don't call it soy. They call it I can't think of the word.
I don't know.
Sometimes it'll be chicken. Sometimes but red meat, we just really don't eat that much of it. I think I'm healthier for it.
Tofu. Thank you, Katie Burris. Tofu. There you go.
Couldn't think of the word. Thank you. Couldn't think of the word.
Very good. All right. Email address for Rabbi. I will put that in chat right now. So thank you for reminding me, my friend. All right.
All you
Rabbi Stuart at hotmail.com. There we go.
But
almost beat you.
If you're one of the many nutcases that gets drawn to media, leave me alone. So if you're a nutcase, don't email me. How's that?
This is for friendly stuff, guys.
Yeah. Honest, real, sincere questions, not just being a whatever.
Ellen mentioned Baka Burger, and then someone else asterisk says Beyond Burgers. There's different types of burgers.
Yeah, different fake meat.
Yeah, that's cool. I've actually had a few. I don't know the names of them though, but there was one that was really very impressive, And I like the idea of cheeseburgers. So it's like to not have any, to have tofu, but that's pretty awesome. All right, we got another caller. Caller, you are live on the air. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Oh, hi. My name is Ellen. I'm calling from Ohio.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi. How are you?
Thank God. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Snowy here, but staying warm and healthy.
Good.
So that's good. I'm really very much interested in the topic for tonight. The topic exactly is what led me to leave Christianity, and I converted to Judaism.
Wow.
2000.
Baruch haba b'shem Hashem. We welcome you in the name of God.
Thank you. Back in 2017. And it was, that was the first thing that came up to me, back in the 1990s, where I kept reading the Bible, I kept reading the Greek scriptures, and I just could not get a handle on why any self-respecting Jew, like Jesus was, would even think of drinking blood, whether it be symbolically or, even symbolically. I just could not wrap my head around that.
Yep.
And I started studying, and then later on, I would kind of revisit that and just could not find any answers to it. And then more recently, after I started, the internet came into being for me. I found James Tabor's lectures.
Sure.
Right.
And Bart Ehrman. And I can't remember, one of those two, I think it was, said that the whole idea of drinking blood, or Jesus saying, "Drink here, take this, drink my blood, eat my body." Like, what Jew would say that? That was like, what? I just couldn't imagine that. And here to find out, I think some of the Christian scholars are saying that it actually came from a dream from Paul, and then it was backpedaled and put into the four Gospels. Does anybody have any further explanation of where that whole thing came from with Jesus saying that? Because I'm sure, I just can't imagine him saying that.
Well, one thing we know for sure is that there's not a single verse in the New Testament where Jesus said, "Hey, write this down," right? And so no one knows if he even said anything that was actually documented there. And for all we know, whoever those writers were, well, most of them plagiarized the other writings, but just kind of paraphrase what they could remember if it actually happened. They just we're talking 10, 20, 30, 40 years after the fact, or actually 30, 40, and 50 years after the fact, when all that stuff came into writing anyway. So I can't even tell you what I had for dinner last month. So I'm just saying, Rabbi?
Yeah.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, remember that even Christian scholars will say that the Gospels come after the writings of Paul historically. That the first things to be written down were the epistles of Paul, and then after that were written down the Gospels. Okay.
Right.
So that's one thing. Second of all, remember that there is a classic concept in, for lack of a better term, I'd call it pagan culture. And that is, animals have characteristics, and if you want to get those characteristics of those animals into your body, you drink the blood of that animal. It's not just eating the meat, it's literally drinking the blood of that animal. You'll see this in cultures literally all around the globe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Aborigines in Australia, okay, tribes or whatever you want to call them in Africa, okay, New Zealand. It's a very common. There's a movie the first version. The second one I thought was okay, but not as good. Called Red Dawn, and it's about the
war movie.
Yeah,
right.
Communist movie where communist, I think it's China, I don't remember, invades the United States up through Mexico, and there's a high school called whose mascot is the Wolverines, and the Boy Scouts of the town and the Wolverines on the football team or whatever, basically run into the mountains and become guerrilla fighters against the invaders. And I think it's a pretty good movie. I like the movie a lot.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
There's a scene in the movie where one of the Wolverines, one of the high school kids, learns how to hunt and shoots his first deer, and they tell him, in order to get the whatever it is character, I don't remember the characteristics of the deer, into his body, he drinks the blood of the deer. And you'll see that in cultures, as I said, all over the place. So if the symbol of your God is a lamb, okay, then it's not a giant step to want your God in you to eat the blood and flesh of the lamb. Okay? That your God is represented by a lamb, and then you eat the blood and the flesh of the lamb to get the God inside you. Mm-hmm. Very common in I don't know what to call it, ancient civilizations. So if it's that rampant in paganism, and since Christianity comes from paganism, not from the Bible or Judaism, then it's a logical next step in Christian ritual to literally, according to Roman Catholicism, I believe also Greek and Russian Orthodox, and symbolically in Western Protestant Christianities, to symbolically eat the flesh and drink the blood of their God, small g. Their God, small g. So, to the Jewish mind, you are absolutely correct.
It seems like that Paul was very Hellenized, and he, from my studies for the last 10 years, seems like he was really, since he kind of gave up on the Jews following him and creating a big, following,
right.
It seems like he just kind of struck out to get to the pagans, the country folk that followed and worshipped all these different gods, and says, okay, let's go after them instead. So it's kind of like
it's very interesting. But early in the Gospels, they quote Jesus. Who knows what he said, as William was saying, but they quote Jesus as saying, I came to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Go nowhere among the Gentiles. Yeah. At the end of the Gospels, you have the opposite. You have go to the nations. Okay, right. The what's it called? Matthew 20, the Great Commission. Okay, right. Jesus says, go to all the nations. And what word would Jesus have used, whether he was speaking Aramaic or Hebrew, what word would he have used for the word nations? He'd have said, go to the Goyim.
Yeah.
And after the first destruction of the temple, the word Goy began to be associated more with the non-Jewish nations and less so with the Jewish nation, even though we were originally called a Goy Gadol, a great nation in the Hebrew of the Hebrew Scriptures. So he begins by saying, I'm only here for the Jews. And then at the end of what they wrote, who knows what he said, then he's saying, forget the Jews. Okay, we're already failing with them. They reject the dying, saving man God. Now go to the non-Jews. It's very interesting change of who their targets were.
Well, Ellen?
It's like a really, really interesting revelation to me when I found out, like, the order of the New Testament books or the Greek scripture
Right.
books, they're totally different than how their chronology is very different than how they're
Right,
done.
but-
Like I was like totally blown away when I found out the letters that Paul wrote were actually the first. And I thought,
But-
oh,
Right.
this is interesting.
But you get the same thing in the Hebrew Scriptures, even in the Jewish ordering of things. Who wrote the Psalms?
Well,
by and large,
they're
it's King
ascribed
David.
to David. Yeah.
Right, but where are
a
the
large,
stories of
a
King
large
David?
percentage of them, at least. Yeah.
You got the stories of King David, okay, but then you get the book of Psalms over here. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's similar.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks very much for taking my call, and
Thank you
You-
for listening.
really,
You bet, Ellen.
really
Thank you.
Really
Ellen,
appreciate
thank you for listening.
all the work that you guys do, and I tune in frequently, if
Well,
not
thank you.
live, often to the recording. So thanks a lot.
Excellent. Thank you, Ellen. Call back anytime.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay, cool deal. Okay, hey, Rabbi, real quick, just to clarify, as it actually got brought up in our conversation at the very tail end, and we're actually discussing that very thing in chat. Real quickly, go and hit, and I mean quickly because we have a caller. Caller, sit tight. We'll be with you in just a second. Don't go anywhere, okay? Okay.
Timestamp.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so, Rabbi, no, not a timestamp. I'll just tell you what it is.
Oh.
Briefly, in like in 2 or 3 sentences or less, that way we can take this caller. What's the dating on the New Testament? So Paul was like around 40 years or so, and then the Gospel was like 10 years after each one.
Wait a minute. Wait. It depends on who you're talking to. Which
Okay.
depends on who they follow in terms of scholarship. Most Christian scholars would call Paul somewhere around the year 50, 55, 60. The writings of Paul start around then. Okay. Jesus died in 33, they would say. Okay, 30 to 33. Somewhere around there, Jesus dies. He's crucified. Paul begins his writing 20 years afterwards. So 50, 55, 60, somewhere around there. And according to most scholars, okay, Mark is the first gospel, and he hits at about 65, 66, somewhere right at the Jewish rebellion. Okay, Matthew is around 70s, middle 70s. Luke is around middle 80s, they say, and then John is 90s or later. Give or take, okay, that's the order they're in.
Okay.
And give or take, they are 10 years apart from each other. So the Gospel's in 50, middle late 60s is Mark, then Matthew in the 70s, Luke in the 80s, and John in the 90s. Give or take.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay,
All
that's what they claim.
Let's go with that for now. All right, we're going to take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name, where you're calling from.
My name is Daniel Fortune. I'm
Hi.
from California.
Daniel, welcome,
Hi,
sir.
Daniel.
Hi, thank you so much for taking my
Sure.
question.
Sure.
I am still, I consider myself Christian-ish.
Okay.
I didn't grow up that way. I came to faith while deployed to Iraq. As they say, no atheists in a foxhole, I guess you could say.
Yep.
I've had a strong affinity for Judaism since very early. Spent the last 10 years trying to sort out the conflict between the Apostle Paul and a lot of what is in the Gospels. You know, Matthew 5,
Yep.
do not think I've come to destroy the law of the prophets.
Right.
I find myself in this weird mixture of Hebrew roots with Judaism still very much appealing to me, and Christianity becoming less and less plausible, I guess you could say, in my faith makeup.
Yep.
The one of the hang-ups I currently have, I don't know if you guys are aware of the facing each other initiative.
Say it again. Say it again.
The Facing Each Other initiative.
I'm not sure I understand what you're referring to.
Something initiative. I can't hear you.
Rabbi, it's talking about the Facing Each Other initiative, he said.
Okay.
Yeah, by Orthodox Jewish priest Ariel Cohen, Aloro.
Could you explain?
Basically,
okay, go ahead.
He postulates that Jesus is the Messiah based on his Hebrew word studies of grace, the Hebrew word ken. And so, yeah, I've been following that content. A lot of what he says helps clarify a lot of things and bridges a lot of gaps for me. So right now I'm struggling between Rabbi, Tovia's thinker, and this other initiative and Hebrew root. So my question would be, is it just plausible that our New Testament, of which we're warned in the Old Testament to beware of the lying pen of the scribes, is just corrupted, but the true seekers will kind of put the puzzle piece together as they're not looking at these two testaments at odds with one another.
Okay, so
willing to go down the brave road.
So let me just to clarify your question. So I'm kind of feeling like you're asking, is it possible that the scribes and the prophets actually messed up, and it's up to the interpretation of new believers to figure it out on their own? Is that kind of where you're leaving?
Yeah, I would say,
Okay, so
true faith in God.
Okay, so I would say here's before Rabbi takes you, here's the very first thing I would say to argue that. If you look at things based on contracts, I mean, everything goes based on what's written, not what has been said by someone else, right? If in fact the prophets were wrong, and I followed the prophets instead of following the New Testament, which actually contradicts the prophets, right? I would much rather personally spend an eternity in hell for doing the right thing than to follow someone else who was trying to lead me astray, because the contract is actually what's in writing, and what's in writing is actually you could find clearly in Tanakh, but warns you about everything that comes through with the New Testament. So I could see that being a fallback plan or damage control from Christianity to say, but here's the thing, it's up to us to interpret it. But it's really not up to interpretation, because Hebrew is the native tongue of the original Bible. It's like you can go to any Jewish child, who a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old child in Jerusalem, in Israel, wherever, and read anything from the script in the Hebrew text of the Hebrew Bible, and they can interpret. They know exactly what it means. There's no interpretation necessary. Now, granted, deeper things obviously, but my point is, there is not a single thing that I could actually detect on my own without having to go to the Jewish people to find out what this word means and what this word means. So for someone to even suggest that, I'm not saying you're the one who suggested it, but for someone else to suggest it to you is very, very elementary and very, very just risky and dangerous, in my opinion. Rabbi?
Well, a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, the quote-unquote rabbi you're quoting, I'd love to know his name, who came up with this Facing Each Other initiative, because he doesn't sound like a real rabbi. He sounds like a messianic, Jew for Jesus type rabbi.
Right. I think it was Ariel, would you say Ariel Cohen or something like that?
Yeah, just for clarification, and if I misspoke, sorry about that.
That's okay.
He's not a rabbi.
Oh.
Supposedly working with notable rabbis in Israel right now.
Working with notable rabbis.
To do the buying back of Jesus.
The Pidyon Nabin.
For the nation of Israel.
And there's no Pidyon Nabin of somebody who's been dead for 2,020 years. That's one thing. Second of all, when he's working with rabbis in Israel, but for some reason he just never gets around to telling you their names. And then he'll say, oh, well, they don't want to come out because they would be, ostracized by their community. If they're not willing to tell you their names, and if they're not willing to tell you who they're dealing with, they're lying.
Or hiding something.
That's one thing. That is its own separate issue. Okay? But my question is this. What they're trying to do is they're trying to give people in my opinion, I could be wrong, who are hanging on to Jesus with their nails, hanging on for dear life because they just can't let go, and they're trying to give them hope or an excuse to keep holding on when there's nothing to hold on to of any real substance. And I'm going to be sounding very, very harsh, and I don't apologize for it. Okay? I really don't care how I sound. So be warned that that's what's coming. You cannot believe in two contradictory things simultaneously. Either God was right when God said in Deuteronomy 24:16, every man shall be put to death for his own sin, or God was lying when he said that, and you have to believe Christianity that Jesus died for your sin. Either Jesus died for your sin, or Deuteronomy 24:16, every man is to be put to death for his own sin. Either Jesus died for your sin, or in Exodus 12 or 21, I always get those two numbers, get the order mixed up, dyslexia or whatever.
Right.
Okay. Either Moses says to the people of Israel, I am going to see if I can atone for your sin, goes up to God, and at 31, maybe it's 31, and God says, sorry, it doesn't work that way. The person who sins is the person who gets the punishment. Or Ezekiel 18, 3 times now, okay, Ezekiel 8, wait a minute, Ezekiel 18, no,
23.
Ezekiel 8. I wasn't a math major for very good reasons. Ezekiel 8, when Solomon is dedicating the very place where they're going to be doing sacrifices, what does he say? He says there's going to come a time where we're in the land of our enemies. All you have to do is face this place, pray, repent, stop doing the bad, start doing the good. God forgives you. You don't need a sacrifice. You don't need a blood sacrifice, which is what we were talking about the whole evening. Okay? Or I think it's Ezekiel 18. I'll have to where God explicitly says to the prophet through the prophet Ezekiel, okay, the wickedness of the wicked shall be on the wicked, not the wickedness of the wicked is on the righteous. Not that somebody else can die for your sin. Either the way it says it explicitly, clearly, with no spin in the Hebrew Scriptures is right, and you accept it and believe it, or you accept and believe the exact diametric opposite, which is what Christianity holds to and believes.
And so, Daniel, real fast, I was going to give you something to look at real fast. I'm going to put it on your screen here. It may take a second for it to show up, but to me, this is one of the most damning things for Christianity, in my opinion. One of the many. It says, and the Lord commanded me in the time to teach you the statutes and judgments, the laws, right, 613 commandments. It says, take ye therefore good heed unto yourselves, for you saw no manner of similitude, nothing similar at all, on the day that the Lord spoke to you in Horeb out of the midst of the fire. Lest, here's the thing, lest you corrupt yourselves. That's the major key. And make yourself graven images of what? The graven images, the similitude of any figure, in the likeness of male or female. God would not present himself in the likeness of a male or female. This time, a human being here. The likeness of any beast that is on the earth, the likeness of any fowl winged in the air, likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, or anything else for that matter. So, this is called corruption right here. It says, lest you corrupt yourselves and you create this image in your head, or I'll say in your head, if you create this idea of the image of anything that's even male or female at all. And so that completely prohibits that. And I think also in Ezekiel, it also talks about the whole concept of the perfect place where it could have said, in those days, in the future days, I'll send a man to die for your sins. There's nothing like that anywhere in the Scripture at all.
And where would it
In
say?
fact, it says the opposite, and it goes on to far to say is that every man will be held accountable for his own sin, and every man whose righteousness will have his own righteousness, based on his theft. Rabbi?
Ezekiel 18:20. It was 18, and it's 18:20. The soul that sins, it shall die. The son shall not bear the sin of the father, neither shall the father bear the sin of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him.
That's the ticket right there. That's exactly what I was referring to.
You can't have it both ways. And Daniel, my strong suggestion is abandon this idolatry, and I would ask you to at least consider fully converting to Judaism.
Now, here's the thing. So, my plea on this whole situation is, and I still believe this today, is that either, not both, either the Old Testament, the Christians call the Old Testament, it's not what the Jews call it. Either the Tanakh, the Hebrew Scriptures, is correct, or the New Testament is independently correct on its own, but it can't be using the Hebrew Scriptures to do it. It could stand alone as its own religion and say, yeah, we pulled a few things from the Old Testament, but it cannot use the Hebrew Scriptures text to prove itself because it contradicts itself. So you really do have to choose. Do you want to follow Jesus and take the word of other people who follow your heart, right? You're saying, should we follow our heart and try to understand it ourselves? But the Tanakh, the Hebrew Scriptures, says that the heart is wicked and deceitful. That you have to really take this into consideration. And so always follow the contracts. Take what is written. Everything is written you can bank on. So keep that in your heart and your mind.
This Ariel Cohen guy.
I really appreciate that.
Sure.
It's pretty providential that you and Rabbi quoted Ezekiel 18:20, because that is the one scripture that has me. It's like it's the domino that really just tears modern Christianity down for me. And it's also the one that has yet to be sufficiently answered by anybody I ask that is a leader.
Daniel,
or a friend.
I ask you just to remember one thing in addition to everything else, and that is, what is the religion Jesus himself believed in? The religion of Jesus is called Judaism.
He was a Jew,
But any time, no, it's called Judaism. What he believed in was Judaism. But the religion about Jesus is called Christianity.
Right.
If it's about Jesus,
that's never made
Jesus
sense to me.
as Messiah, Jesus as Savior, Jesus says he died for you, whatever. Now you're dealing in Christianity, which contradicts the Hebrew Scriptures.
Now, Daniel, here's I'll leave you with this. I know you're struggling right now with fear, because it's like, what if the Jews are wrong? I mean, there's still a chance that maybe they're wrong. Maybe the Christians are right. I mean, I don't know. You said you were not raised Christian. I can't remember if it was you or another caller who said that, but I was raised Christian, and so for me, once I started finding this stuff out, it took me 3 years. 3 years it took me to finally shut the door. That was hard.
Yeah, it's also providential that Rabbi said, I highly encourage you to consider converting to Judaism.
Good.
And abandoning your Christianity.
Yeah, well, I have, talked to my wife and family about, hey, I'm struggling with these things. It's crazy when you have a wife that's been listening to you, following religious convictions. You have children that you've been raising a certain way. And then you're saying, man, I want to keep Shabbat. I have, these other feelings and
sure,
inclinations spiritually, but it has been something that I have considered,
right,
in my own experience, because at the end of the day, while I'm imperfect, like you're expressing, the truth is the truth with a capital T, and it's up to me to submit to it, regardless of where that leads me, regardless of how fearful that process might be.
Daniel, please, I hate to keep adding on. Okay, it's tough enough as it is. It's a lot to think about. But please, 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 while you are thinking all this, okay, you are made in the image of God. You, Daniel, are little lower than the angels. Okay, it's not that we aren't perfect. It's that when did God ever say we're supposed to be perfect? Okay, don't begin studying. Don't take with you, if you leave Christianity, stuff that you learn from Christianity that is inherently wrong. Not just about Jesus, but about yourself. Okay? Judaism isn't stupid. The rabbis were anything but stupid. The biblical authors, capital A author, okay, were not stupid. They know we're going to make mistakes. But if you hold yourself in condemnation, which leads to contempt, you're limiting your ability to succeed in anything, because you're starting out with the proposition that you are broken, defeated, it's a horrible world, everything's bad, everything's crap. And Christianity teaches this crap about it's a broken world, I'm a broken man, broken that I hate so much. Okay, Judaism doesn't say it's a perfect world, but Judaism says recognize you got good stuff in you too. You are equally free to choose to do good, and you are equally free to choose the bad. But when you choose the bad, there's something called repentance and forgiveness. Clean slate, start over.
Right.
And just don't forget that. That's all I'm saying. Just don't forget that too.
Yep. And for you and all the viewers out there, always remember that the Hebrew Scriptures can exist without the New Testament. It does. But the New Testament cannot exist without the Hebrew Scriptures.
If they spin every verse, and if they ignore blatantly simple meaning, obvious literal text.
Yeah. And so if anybody's trying to convince you to trust your heart and you should interpret this yourself, they clearly don't understand it themselves.
Right.
So, very good. Well, Daniel, thanks for calling in. Call in anytime. If you ever need to reach out.
Anytime. Email me.
Yep.
Any way I can help, I'd be happy to.
RabbiStuart@hotmail.com.
Yep.
Right? And then TanakTalk@gmail. So whichever one you choose. That's good. Rabbi can help answer more questions for you. You bet. Right. About the being okay. Oh yeah. So one final thing. Oh, he already hung up, but he's still listening. So no good show has whoever's hosting it, the two hosts, to agree on everything together. Like I like Scotch and bourbon, and Rabbi is more into sweet tea. That's not my point. We don't agree on everything. So you don't have to convert to Judaism. There's no need for it. Now, if you feel compelled, like you want to really, you feel compelled and drawn, then go for it, for sure. I totally encourage that. But there is no need to convert to Judaism to be
I never said there was a need.
No, I know.
I want him to convert to Judaism.
Oh, I agree. I can see your point, and I can understand that. But I'm just saying there's no need for it. You can remain Ben Noah, can still be in just as much upright relationship with the Creator as as a Jew is. So everything has its different purpose, So very good.
All right, two things that I see near the end. Wayne Hampson writes, Judaism is a punishment and reward system, carrots and sticks. God has a naughty and nice list. Hey, Wayne, so did your mom and dad. If you care about somebody, you care about their actions, their behaviors. And there's a right way and a wrong way and a good way and a bad way to act in the world. And people who care about you care also about what you do. Okay. Eric Murphy writes, can anyone guide me to the best way to contact a local synagogue to learn more? I recently deconstructed, but I have love for Hashem. Good. I hope you continue to have love for God. My strong suggestion is simply to pick up the phone and call. They get calls from people exactly like you every day.
Right.
Every day.
Right.
You are not alone in this search. You are not alone in what you call the deconstruction.
when you don't have crime and punishment, you have chaos. At the end of the day,
Well,
I say crime, disobedience.
and when you have crime and no punishment because God automatically forgives what you do, all you have to do is believe. It doesn't matter how you act. Okay, then you wind up with chaos, and you wind up with, Christianity.
Now, this is not a joke. Based on what you just said, there is a really, it's not a mega church, but it's a big church in Marble Falls down the street from where we live in a different town.
Area.
Then it literally says on the sign, the advertisement on the marquee sign says, "No rules, just Jesus."
Right.
Not a joke.
Great.
Not a joke.
Wonderful.
Not a
Sounds
joke.
like, certain political organizations too, but let's not get political.
Yep. Very good. Very good. All right, Rabbi, how you doing? I'm feeling pretty encouraged to continue on if you are.
Hey, if we got stuff to talk about, I'm more than happy to talk.
Guys, give us a call, 855-952-4253. It's on your, and that translates to 855-95-BIBLE, by the way. So.
Yeah, but don't confuse that with, what's that other phone number?
Oh, gosh.
It's a
MetaShare or something like that?
Man.
We got calls literally for 5 years. 30% of our phone calls. Oh, yeah, I was calling about your insurance program. I'm like, you want fire insurance? I got some for you.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Wow.
Right.
Okay. Well, that may not have much more to talk about, but I will say it was really, I'm glad we covered this topic tonight. I'm glad we actually, I'm thankful for the callers. Daniel, even with your scenario, I really appreciate your thoughts and your concerns. But again, just remember that, the Hebrew Scriptures doesn't need anything else to exist, but the New Testament relies on the Hebrew Scriptures. And so,
as long as it can misinterpret, mistranslate,
yeah,
take out of context,
right,
whatever.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Yep, there you go. Cool. All right. Well, I'm going to get ready to cue up the music, and we're going to call it a night, Rabbi. So,
Fine by me, anything you want.
I just, that plan just changed. We have a caller. Caller, you're live on the air. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hey, my name is Michael. I'm calling from Vancouver, Washington.
Michael, welcome. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much. I want to let you know, I was in Christianity for 40 years, started out Baptist, went to Foursquare, then went to Pentecostal, and 10 years ago, God literally woke me up at 4:30 in the morning and said, "My people perish for lack of knowledge."
Right.
And I had no clue. I didn't even know where that was from. Then I found out it was in Hosea.
Nice.
And from that point on, I started doing some research into Christianity. Well, I've since left Christianity, and I always knew. I mean, sitting in church, I'd sit there and I'd watch things go on, and I'd read my Bible and I would go, but it doesn't say that. Yeah, I always knew in my heart there was something wrong, but I couldn't quite place it until I started doing all the research.
Right.
So,
well, very good. Well, Michael, man, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate that. You can call in anytime.
Yeah,
you can call in anytime with a question or just to say hi. Appreciate. I'm glad you're on the journey that you are. That's awesome. Good to hear.
Yeah, I love this program.
Thank you.
love this rabbi. I love Tovia Singer. I mean, now if I could just get my family to listen to me. My daughter's listening to me, so she knows. But
good, man. All you can do is just kind of just keep a humble, kind spirit at your house, and just pray for opportunities. I mean, Hashem will, buy a few books and leave them laying out accidentally, turn to the right page.
or I could get somebody that agrees with me and knock on their door and hand them a tracker. Like a drug.
And you might be surprised how many people who live near you don't even know are there also have gone through what you've gone through and believe how you believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
You might be surprised.
Yeah. Well, I keep keeping up with all the political stuff, and I see all these people talking Jesus this and Jesus that, and I'm like, you sit here and you say you've been lied to about everything your entire life except Jesus.
Wait a minute. Okay. And I hear Christians say this a lot, and it's important to understand, in my opinion, Remember that where you have been is what got you where you are. And and listen carefully to what I'm saying. Even though what they told you, even though what they taught you is a lie, is not true, they were not lying to you. To lie to somebody means to intentionally deceive them. They believed in what they taught you. They weren't trying to deceive you. What they told you was not true, but they weren't intentionally trying to deceive you. They didn't lie to you. They just told you things that were lies. It's not the same thing.
Right.
Okay? I'm afraid that people will condemn themselves because they believe what wasn't true, and they will condemn the people who told them these untruths, even though they were sincere, and therefore because they were sincere, they weren't lying. I don't condemn them for telling what they believed. I condemn them for not doing the research and, whatever else. Okay? But just don't be so hard on yourself. I said this to an earlier caller. Because being hard on your family, your parents, the people who taught you, told you what they believed was right, they were sincere, they become the foundation upon what you became, how you became you. And I don't want you to spend an ounce of effort condemning them, because that usually winds up condemning yourself. And I don't want that. I didn't believe, I should have, forget that. It's over, it's done. They were sincere. They weren't trying to deceive you. They therefore were not lying by definition of what it means to lie. They weren't trying to deceive you, even though what they told you was not true and therefore a lie. Just keep that in mind, okay?
All right. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for calling in, and we'll call in anytime, okay?
Yeah.
And,
all right. Thank you.
You bet. Take care. Bye.
I just want to say something quick, because
Sure.
I know we're going to end soon, to Wayne Hampson, living in rural Australia. Wayne, I believe me, you are there's so many people in your situation, not necessarily in Australia, but I think even there too, who live far away from a Jewish center, far away from a Jewish community, but they've discovered God, they love God, and they want to know more. I believe, especially with the coronavirus and the taking off of things like Zoom, GoToMeeting, Skype, all these things, that there isn't, wherever you are in rural Australia, if you got access to the internet, there isn't a way to contact and create a relationship with a rabbi and synagogue somewhere in the larger Jewishly populated areas. You may not be able to walk next door to visit a family and celebrate Shabbat, celebrate the Sabbath with them, but you might be surprised what you can learn and be edified by with the computer, with the internet, with Zoom and all things like that. And especially in Australia, where at least stereotypically what we hear in the United States is that there's a lot of people living in very rural areas. I got news for you. There are here in the United States too. People who live, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours west of a big city capital of a state like Austin. Right, William?
Repeat the last sentence. I'm actually responding to Andrea, one of our moderators.
Oh, I'm sorry, but my
That's
point
okay.
is, Wayne, is don't hesitate to contact a synagogue and the rabbi there. Because even living in rural Australia, they might be able to, clue you into adult education programming, speakers that they have coming, or not even coming. Maybe they're going to speak to the congregation through Zoom, and they'll give you the way to tie into it. And I think that's more and more common. I see people leaving Christianity in droves, and if they don't take with them the anti-Judaism they learned from the Christianity they left, if they give Judaism a chance, they would find a deeply meaningful, spiritualizing, spiritual uplifting faith. But you got to work for it. You got to go pick up the phone and call. Go to your Google search and search in the nearest, even if it's a couple of few hours away, the nearest Jewish community. There are going to be congregations there.
Well, there you go. Well, it looks like we are wrapping it up for tonight. So Andrea, she's got jury duty tomorrow, and I have a quick funny story about that. They had me drafted for jury duty, and this is one time whenever I was actually Messianic, and I was still wearing a yarmulke, and I had my tzitzit, and so I was in the court, and they when they interviewed me to actually do the jury duty, all I had to tell them, I wasn't trying to get out of it. I was just trying to be honest with them. And they said, "Well, would you have any problem, accusing, letting this guy be, what all the terms are, as long as the majority rules on the decision?" I said, "Well, as long as there's two witnesses, yeah, for sure." They're like, "What do you mean two witnesses?" I said, "Well, the Torah states," and they did not select me at all. They booted me out almost. It was funny, but
they did.
I wasn't being dishonest. I was being sincere. So I told Andre, just quote a few on a few of the Torah laws, and they'll dismiss you pretty much. So that's funny. Oh, she's already picked. Dang it. You should have called me beforehand. I'm just kidding. Oh, go figure. She said they wanted somebody who questions everything. Well, that's good, but unfortunately I only pay like $2 a day in coffee. I'm just kidding. I have no idea. I've never actually successfully been to jury duty, but I will definitely pull that Torah card every time in the future because I know it worked for me this last time. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Turn on notifications. And remember, Rabbi Stuart at hotmail.com or tanaktalk@gmail. If you have any possible topics for future references, let us know. Send us your topic ideas. Put it on Facebook if you want to. Tag me in it there, and we'll start hitting some good topics as we always have something good to talk about because the callers have great questions.
Well, we try our best.
Oh yeah, for sure. So all good in the hood. All right, y'all have a great weekend. Rabbi, thank you so much for your time, and we
always a pleasure.
Thank you. We'll see you soon. Take care, everybody. Later, guys.
No music?
I snuck you back in. Later, everybody.
Yeah.